inviting me to be. We're recording now. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of it, and I want to start by thanking our panelists. Everybody at CDFA is so busy all the time, so thank you so much for taking the time to be a part of this conversation today. So real quick, we've got Kathy Diaz here, our Director of Marketing Services. We have Dr. Eduardo Mendez, a veterinarian with animal health, and we also have Dr. Ricardo Gatala, also a veterinarian with our animal health division. I hope you're feeling better, doctor. I'm sorry that you're not with us today, but thank you for being a part of this community. Before I hand it over, I do want to hear introductions from everybody, but I did want to share, I learned a little bit about Hispanic Heritage Month. Maybe you all know this, but I will share that the roots of Hispanic Heritage Month. There you go. I apologize, I didn't have my microphone on, but trust me, it was brilliant, right? The history of Hispanic Heritage Month actually started in 1968 under President Lyndon B. Johnson. Under him, it was just a week. 20 years later, President Ronald Reagan, hailing from California, decided that it needed to be a full month of celebration for Hispanic Americans, everything that they have contributed to our culture, our music, our food, academics, sciences, everything that is just a part of the fabric that is American life. We are very grateful to have a full month now to celebrate. And actually the timing of Hispanic Heritage Month is really important too. September 15th to October 15th covers several days that are really important to Latin American countries. Independence Day for Costa Rica, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, El Salvador, and then also Mexico, Chile, and Brazil, or Belize. It's Belize. Sorry about that. I almost had them all perfectly. So I think that's wonderful as well, that not only are we celebrating the Hispanic Americans and everything they contribute to our culture, but also acknowledging the important parts of those home cultures. So that's a little bit of background there. One more thing, it's also Farmer and Farm Worker Appreciation Month. We have in California over 14,000, I think 14,700 Hispanic farm owners in the state of California. Also our farm workers who are a vital part of agriculture in the state. We have 800,000 farm workers in the state of California that were born in Mexico, but I have to give the caveat on these numbers. One, they're kind of old. They're from 2017 census, the most recent census we've done. But also, as you all know, it depends who's reporting. Not everybody reports when they're asked these kind of questions. So obviously those numbers are probably actually quite larger. So it's a very exciting month here at CDFA, lots to celebrate. So let's hear from the panelists. I want to ask you all, let's start with your self-introductions. I want to know, I kind of gave the roles, your titles here at CDFA, but I would love to know what is it that you do, kind of the daily part of your job, and also how long you've been here. How about we start with you, Dr. Everardo?
Yes, my name is Everardo Mendez. I have been with the department for 22 years, and as a veterinarian, I go to the farms, and our main purpose of our branch is public safety, and we work directly with the Hispanic community because they are the one that work on those farms. They're the one that work with the industry, with all the livestock, and I work as part of our program. We train and license them to work on those facilities. It's a very unique program that in order for them to perform the duties on those that they call custom livestock slaughter. It's an amazing program that not many people know about it, but it's very specific, where they go there to buy the livestock. A lot of those culture groups, ethnic groups, they want to see the live animal before they buy. Mm-hmm. And because we have this program, they can go there, but in order for those establishments to exist, we need to train them with some disease, some basic disease, and how to diagnose and how to prevent from the food to get contaminated. So they are the workforce, the boots on the ground, preventing the food from get adulterated or contaminated to get to the food channels. So yeah, we work direct with the Hispanic community, really appreciate what they do.
Well, we're grateful for what you do. It sounds like you're really an educator above and beyond.
That's correct. Yeah, part of our job it is to train and to make sure they understand. I work direct to Dr. Ricardo Gaitan. That's something we both do. And also developing training materials, bilingual training materials to facilitate the understanding of and how to perform what's important.
And you mentioned that there's a cultural aspect to what you do as well. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Yes, because as I said, for them, it's very important how some of these groups, they don't want to go to Costco to buy the product. They don't want to go to the supermarket. They want to buy the live chicken. They will choose that chicken. They'll choose that pig, and they want to be part of killing that animal because they want to collect the blood. And they, back in their country, they use everything of the animal. It's amazing. They're going to keep everything, and the head, the feet, the viscera. That's part of what they cook. So they cannot go to the store and buy that.
Right.
They only go to those establishments that we train, we license, and we regulate. And we regularly are present there to make sure they understanding and continuously training and ensuring that it's performed correctly.
I love how you're doing both food safety, which is, of course, most important, right? But also protecting these cultural traditions that, like you said, you can't just go to the grocery store and find these things. So they really, really depend on you to keep this part of their culture alive.
Yes, no, it is amazing. Yeah, every day you see different things. We learn different traditions, you know. Some of the Hispanic, they like, they call cueritos. Cueritos, they remove the skin of the pig. It's not only the chicharron, it's the fat part of the skin. They just remove a very thin part. And I don't know what else they could get that besides them doing themselves on those establishments, you know?
Right.
Yeah. And we're there to ensure everything is clean, is safe, and the people that work there is performing all the important duties, and so the community can be served.
Yeah, I bet they're really grateful when you come out there and help them.
It is. We always joke, like myself and Dr. Ricardo Gaitan, it's amazing that we walk to those places and they are, I even joke with them because they are happy to see the inspector.
Yeah.
Because they don't see us, they see us as someone who is going there to help them do what needs to be done.
You're a partner. Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah, I think at our very best here at CDFA, we are partners. I love to hear that.
Thank you.
How about you, Dr. Gaitan? Tell us about what you do and how long you've been here at CDFA.
Oh, hi. Good afternoon, everyone. Well, after Everardo has said, there's not much to say about what we do. He probably explained pretty much everything. One of the aspects that is very important, and not only for the Hispanic communities, is all the different ethnic groups that live in the United States, primarily California. Those traditions, they cannot continue those traditions if we wouldn't have these kind of custom slaughter operations. Some of them they do their prayers, they do they bring their families all together, they do their dances, and a lot of things that are amazing to watch. Dr. Mendez has amazing footage of some of those events that we're being witnesses, especially him, during all the years that he has served in CDFA, and it's amazing to watch the importance that this program has for all these ethnic groups that cannot perform this kind of functions in other places if we wouldn't have these kind of programs. Another thing that Dr. Mendez and I do a lot is as he mentioned, the translation of the documents, the training materials, take a lot of pictures and videos, which, by the way, Dr. Mendez have made 2 amazing videos that you guys should see them in regards the diversity in California, and the other one is in regards the custom exempt facilities and the program and what we do, and they are very, very well made. He made it out of his own time, and I mean, the product is amazing. We sometimes we organize the trainings in person for those that don't speak English or the English language is very, very low. And we get all together almost like a family. And they are so happy to have us there. They organize like a get together. They all bring food from their own homes, and after the training, they invite us to eat with them. They share the food, and they talk to us about their experiences, what they have found, and they ask us questions about some examples of organs that they found and cases, etc. And we do it in a way that is very interactive, and there's no like we are the inspectors and you are the workers. It's like we are a family, and we are discussing everything, and they're learning, and we're learning also, because we learn about their cultures. Yeah, because sometimes, or most of the time, it's not only knowing their language, but knowing their culture, because each group is different. And when you develop programs and training programs, if you take in consideration the cultural aspect, the training is well taken, or better taken by them, than just learning and trying to memorize the stuff that we tell them. So it's very important what we do, what they do. We train them to look for the stuff that is not normal. It's impossible to train them to diagnose a disease because they're not doctors, but not even us as a veterinarians can diagnose without laboratory diagnostic tools, etc. So we train them to identify what is normal. And every time that they see something that is not normal, then they call us. And they call us, they send us pictures, videos, and if there's any doubt, then we go personally and see the stuff live and make a determination. But they are very proud of what they do, and they always brag about being meat inspectors or poultry inspectors, because we provide them with a ID, with a picture ID that says that they are state meat inspectors. That's cool. Or poultry meat inspectors, and they do it with a lot of pride, because they want their business to thrive.
That's wonderful. And that's wonderful. And they should feel proud of everything that they're doing in partnership with CDFA. And I'm so curious to learn more. And I guess maybe I'll have to ask to see the videos of kind of the cultural practices or celebrations that you get to be witness to when you're out there providing the education and providing your guidance and support. And you mentioned too that you guys do a lot of translating, Dr. Gaitan. You speak multiple languages. Is that right?
Well, I only speak English and Spanish. Dr. Mendez speaks English, Spanish, Portuguese, a little bit of French, a little bit of Italian. So
that's correct. Yes.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Do you get to use all those languages regularly?
Well, there are days that between Portuguese and Spanish, that would be like 3/4 of my day. There are days that English should be occasionally, so it's quite interesting because there is a very large Portuguese community in the valley, and they also have dairies, they have meat processors, they have a slaughterhouse, they have, and we also have to train them, work with them, and yeah, it's at one point I was translating some things in Portuguese for them.
Oh, wow. Wow. Well, we are very lucky to have you.
That's correct. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Kathy Diaz, your turn. Tell us what you do and how long you've been at CDFA.
I always have a hard time explaining what it is our division. Sorry, I always have a hard time explaining what our division does. We do a multitude of things. One side of us deals with what are called marketing programs under different portions of the Food and Ag Code. We help farmers and handlers help themselves, creating programs that they fund themselves. We exist because they want us to be around, and they provide the funding. Our entire division is industry funded. So there's a small caveat that I'll mention, but our entire division and everything that has to do directly with agriculture, we are there because the industry has approached us wanting the service. So that's something we take great pride on. And we try to live up to the industry's expectations. They do things, probably one of the things you've all seen is that the Got Milk campaign that originated with one of our programs. The Egg Commission used to have, you remember the little egg coming out of jail kind of thing? So that's one that is close to my heart. But so there's that. There are programs that do scientific research, cultural practices, a variety of things like that. Another part of our division deals with the entities and individuals that purchase farm product from our California farmers. And what we do is we make sure that they're financially sound and that our farmers actually get paid, and help with the resolution if there's any dispute or anything happens, anything goes wrong. So we have millions of dollars that we help recover every year or prevent. There's all these different steps that are involved, but basically what it is show the department is present, is watching, is monitoring, because we want people to be able to enter the business. And we have lots of members of the Hispanic community that acquire for the first time every year a license with us and remain licensed for many years after to purchase California farm product for resale. That's a service we provide in multiple languages, including Spanish. That's an area that our market enforcement branch handles. We also deal with an asset called quota that has to do with dairies, and that's a very convoluted accounting system, essentially, that the department acts as a clearing house for. So we look at that. We are also the statistical arm for the department. The department has had for over 100 years an agreement with USDA for the collection of agricultural statistics. So part of my job, and that's something that, again, I really appreciate and value quite a bit, is being able to work with our USDA partners to keep that partnership going, to refresh it, to add new components, to work together to see what the industry needs and wants in terms of data that can then be used to make decisions. So every year, you may or may not see, when you go to the statistics page, our team, in conjunction with other areas of the department, we pull together every year the annual statistics report. And that we get calls from banks, universities. If it's a little delayed, if it's past January, the phone starts ringing. People want to see those numbers. So we help pull that together with NAS, with USDA here in Sacramento. So, and then that's one side. We also oversee the network of California fairs. There's more than 50 fairgrounds in the state. Many of them are state entities. No, there's like 72, sorry. it's like 72, 52 of them are state entities. And, that is the place where we really, I feel we make a lot of more visible impact, in the sense that when an emergency happens in California, it's our fairgrounds that are activated, and people just, it's the most natural thing for them to just head to the fairgrounds for help. And sometimes even the local authorities may have not even deployed the services or activated the fairground. It doesn't matter. The doors get opened and we start getting calls from the fairgrounds, and we help facilitate, so the Office of Emergency Services knows how many evacuees, animals and humans are on site, and what the needs are. And there's all different levels of coordination that take place. We help them with lots of administrative stuff and oversight. But yeah, so that's what I do. It's very diverse.
That's
So it's
all?
difficult. That's all. That's all. So it's very diverse. It's very interesting. Never a dull day, but it's really interesting because I am absolutely in love with California agriculture. I love that the fiber of the people involved in there. They really put their lives on the line to have that crop produced and go to market. I know of many people who have, because of a storm or a fire, they have lost their home. That was what was going to, that was a collateral for their crop. So that really makes you realize the commitment that farmers have. And I just absolutely love working with them because of that. They really love what they do, and they feed us.
They do. They
Yes.
do. Not just
Yes.
California, but the rest of the country and the world. We export so much of what we produce.
Yes, yes, they do great
And
work.
the marketing aspect is very important.
Yes.
So thank you. And how
Yeah.
long have you been with CDFA?
This month it's 25 years.
Oh, so you like it
Wow.
here.
Yeah, I think so.
Came
Yeah.
to stay.
That's
She
yeah.
came to stay.
Yeah, I came to stay, and it's just interesting because it's I always wanted to be an economist, and CDFA has the only economist in the state of California. That's how I ended up here.
Well, that you were leading me into my next question, Kathy. Actually, I am very curious to hear from all three of you. How is it that you came to CDFA? And I know, Kathy, you're Ecuador by way of Cincinnati, and Dr. Gaitan by way of Mexico, and Dr. Mendez by way of Brazil. So I am very curious to hear how you ended up, not just at CDFA, but in California. Who wants to jump in? How about you?
Well, I have to say that I came to California, but Sacramento wasn't my goal. But I bought a car for $250 in New York and drove here, and the car broke down in Sacramento. So, so as my wife said, 34 years later, we're still here. So
Did you ever get the car fixed?
we eventually got the car fixed. Yeah. So yeah, that's how we made to Sacramento. Wasn't our plan. And coming from Rio was kind of weird to be away from the ocean, because when you have the ocean, you know where everything is. And here I have to learn where it's north, where it's east, west, but eventually got it. And we have a river here. We enjoy the river, fishing, swimming, everything. And after some jobs, I heard about I realized, okay, here's the capital, so all the departments are here. And my school had a very strong background in food safety and meat inspection. So I started doing some research. And my wife said, listen, and they provide all these service for the Hispanic community, and in the valley, the Hispanic, the Portuguese speaking, the Italians. So you have to try that. So that's how I ended up finding out about CDFA, and was still way more unique than I thought, and I have no idea, and nobody has an idea, every day out there is a different thing, and different cultures. As Dr. Ricardo Gaitan mentioned, we talk about Hispanic, but there are several other ethnic groups, that we help them continue with their cultural traditions. And the only way they can do that is by our support. And Yeah, that's how we made.
So you got here. That's wonderful. We're so
Yes.
lucky that your car broke down.
I know.
Not a bad place for it to break down.
No,
Lots
it's
of opportunities for
exact.
someone with your background.
Thank
That's
you.
wonderful. How about you, Dr. Gaitan? How did you make
Okay.
your way to California
Yeah.
and CDFA?
Dr. Mendez, what was your final destination before the car broke down in
Oh,
Sacramento?
good question.
That's a good question. And actually, I was very close because it was Davis.
Oh,
So I still made to Davis, because we want to get some post-graduation studies there. Yes, so it was very close. I cannot complain, And so
almost.
almost.
Well, the reason why I end up here in Sacramento is because one of my mom's sister moved to Sacramento back in 1964. And every time we had summer vacation when we were in probably middle school and high school, my mom will send us here for summer in Sacramento. So when I was in my vet practice in Mexico City and the insecurities start raising, I got robbed at gunpoint like 5 times, and
Ooh.
two of the times my kids were with me. That's when I decided that I didn't want to raise my kids under this pressure and these risks that somebody one time or somehow somebody's gonna the finger is gonna slip or something and is gonna kill me or kill one of my kids, or etc. And I was a permanent resident already because my mom married an American in 1983. My dad passed away when I was 7 years old. So I moved myself. I moved to Sacramento. I actually found a job over the phone. I got interview over the phone to the animal control in the city of Sacramento. And since the position was an animal care technician and I was a licensed veterinarian, they were very happy to have me. And so I moved to Sacramento. They offered me a 3-month probation period. I moved myself, living with my aunt. And 3 months later, they offered me the permanent position. And that's when I called my wife and say, okay, they offered me the permanent position, so you can start selling everything. And I already have 3 veterinarians lined up that were interested in buying my practice. And my wife sold my practice and sold all the household items. And they moved here by September. Actually, they got here a little bit more than a weekend before September 11. And when September 11 happened, my wife was like, did you think we did the right move?
Wow.
I was like, yes, we did the right move. And the first 16 years of my life working in Sacramento were not very productive. It was a lot of work, very low pay, but it was enough to raise my kids. And then, thanks to a headhunter, I end up in CDFA, and the headhunter is sitting right next to you.
Oh,
Dr. Mendez
Thank
was
you.
the one who brought me here.
Well, I knew
talked
when
to
I
me.
met him the contribution that he'd do it, and it's perfect. I love what he does. He helps everybody. He has his knowledge, his personality. He brings out together, and so happy to have him here. Thank for being a
Yeah, he told me about this
headhunter.
program,
What
and
a title.
I took some ride-alongs. I request some ride-alongs. I start learning. It took me like almost 3 years to find an opening because there was no openings. Finally, an environmental scientist position opened, and I applied, and then everything is history. And now I'm a
wonderful.
veterinarian specialist for the branch.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for roping him in. Very lucky.
The headhunter.
That's also on your resume, right? Headhunter.
Yes.
Well, one thing I'm really struck by when you talk about moving here, working for 3 months, and then your wife having to sell everything and relocate the family. I mean, that kind of rolls off the tongue fairly quickly, but that must have been really challenging. That must have been hard for her, hard for you, hard for the kids to uproot and move to another country, even familiar as it might have felt.
It was really hard, especially for my kids. The culture is completely different. In Mexico, everybody is very friendly, and people hug each other, kiss each other when they say hi. So when we got here and they tried to do the same thing, they were pushed away, and they felt like they didn't fit here. So they have to learn that, well, every place is different. People here like their personal space. They don't like to be touched, stuff like that. And another thing that it was very shocking for them was seeing their classmates talking back to their teachers.
Hmm.
And and when they stood up for the teacher, then they start getting bullied. And other thing that I remember is that all the food that it was wasted in the cafeteria. They say, well, my friends, they don't like the apples and they don't like the oranges, and I want to take them, and they don't let me, and they throw them to the garbage, even if they didn't touch them, and stuff like that. It was very hard for them to understand, because my kids were 7, 9, and 10 years old, and the bullying for being from Mexico, even though my 2 daughters learn a little bit of English in Mexico because they were in a bilingual school, they had a hard time because they bully them a lot for speaking Spanish.
That's really disappointing to hear. And I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that your children had to go through that. You know,
Well,
my family is from, my mom's parents were from Mexico, and they lived in Los Angeles, and this is back in the 1940s, 1950s, and they got married and had their children. And racism at that time in Los Angeles especially was so rampant that they did not teach their children to speak Spanish. They
Nope.
really wanted my mom and her sisters to assimilate, because they thought that would give them better opportunities, and if, at the very least, to protect them against that kind of bullying. So it is sad to hear that even, you know, as recently as your children's experience, that still happens here.
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah. I think it's also interesting too, you bring up kind of like your family coming here and the things that they notice that are so different from home is really an important mirror for all of us to look into, because we just get so used to American culture. Speaking back to your teacher, food waste, those are things that we are not proud of. We probably don't even notice or even pay attention to that much. And it's so important for someone to come in and raise that and bring that to our awareness. You know, even if it just changed one person's behavior, would be just show the benefits of having a more diverse culture, having people come in from other countries, other ethnic groups, and hold up that mirror to us and kind of show us the ways that we can be better. So thank you for sharing that story.
Thank you.
And you, Ms. Diaz.
Well, just I am a firm believer that God has a plan and things just line up somehow because it's meant to happen and it will happen. And it's just the kind of thing where I always say I won my husband in a raffle, and you'll see why. So I started college in Ecuador, economics. Why economics? Because when I was like 8, my uncle, who was an economist, gave me an economics book. And I started looking at it, and over the years, I kept looking at it, and I just planted in my head that I was going to be an economist. So sure enough, when I was in 12th grade, you know, before graduation, they go to all this testing that they do to kind of see what your aptitude is. And they said, you should really do something that has to do with writing. Don't do anything that has to do with numbers, because you cannot, you really don't have that spatial ability to do things. And you know what? They were right. To this day, I cannot like turn an image in my head just mentally to flip it to do the three-dimensional thing. They were absolutely right, but I was stubborn. So um, I got into the College of Economics, and I covered all the math and all the stuff that is considered just the basic stuff there. But when I got here, it turns out I had more credits than I needed to graduate, because a lot of the courses I had already taken were required here at the graduate level. But of course, I was not registered in the graduate program. So it took me years, because I was working for an insurance company, to get through college. But as I had mentioned, I tend to be a little stuck. So I just continued going, and it was part-time for years, but I was just not letting go at that point. So, and my plan had always been, okay, and I had bought a house here because I'm a citizen. I figured, okay, I'll just cash that out. I'll go back home. I'll establish a business. So I meet my husband at a ballroom class that I had tried to sign up for 2 semesters. And one day when I went for the third time, there's this raffle, because they always try to keep the same number of men and women to keep the class balanced so they can teach the lessons. That's just how they did it. And so there were too many women. And I never win anything, not even chewing gum on a raffle, but I got one of the I got one of the spaces for the class. And that's how I met my husband. So as I was wrapping up my last year in college, making all these plans, we started dating. He proposed. Ecuador went through one of the worst economic crises they have had in 100 years at that time. It simply did not make sense to sell my house and move back to Ecuador. So my husband, who's from Romania, and I started our little international family. and that's just how it happened. And that was, I got married in January of 98 and started working here in October of 98.
Wow.
So that's how I won my husband in a raffle.
Well, I have a lot of questions, but so do you still ballroom dance with your husband?
Oh, most of my close friends from college, that's how we met our spouses. And it has been established that once we got married, all the dancing ended. So yes, we were all lured to marriage by this handsome gentleman, but yeah, the dancing stopped at that point.
Yeah.
Still dance, but not ballroom dancing. Yeah,
Well, it's a good way to meet people if you can
Yes.
get into the raffle, clearly.
that's right. So
So
yeah.
how did you go? I thought I saw that you were born in Cincinnati.
Mhm.
And then how did you make your way back to Ecuador?
Because I was not meant to be born in the United States.
Ah, okay.
So my mom has multiple siblings, but only one they have the same mom. They were like half brothers, half sisters that she had, but only one brother from the same mom and dad. So he used to live in Cincinnati. He used to work for the United Fruit many years ago, back when they had entire towns in Ecuador. So he coordinated things from Cincinnati, where they had the banana plantations. So my uncle was living in Cincinnati, and he got involved he had a very, very, very bad car accident. So he spent about 6 months in the hospital. My mom had traveled to help take care of him, and she was already pregnant. It was too far into her pregnancy for her to fly back at the time I was supposed to go back. So I was never meant to be born here. But when I look at all these things and I look at the big picture, I'm like, there must be a plan somewhere here, because that's an awful lot of coincidences. But yeah.
You were meant to be born here.
well, yeah,
I would say.
yes.
Oh, wow. Wow. Well, those are some great stories. Thank you. Everybody has such a dramatic, unique way that they made their way here to California and CDFA. Let's see. So now I want to know, who inspired you? Who did you look up to most? Who helped put you on the path of your career? Who's that special person in your life? Dr. Mendez.
I had several people that were very important for me, female and male role models. And my dad was very unique because he was a son of a Dutch immigrant and a Native American. But they live in such a poor condition. They had 18 kids, and my dad was the last one, 18 kids. They had no TV. So
That's why they had 18 kids.
every single one was born at home. He said it took like 3 days on a horse to get to the closest city or doctor. Anyway, so he was the only one who got some college education. He became a physician. And my mom comes from this farmer's family. And so my dad always went to the farm. And but he was militant at taking care of everybody for free. Everybody that works there. He had a medical office there and had the lines on the farm. They knew when my dad came, they saw the car and he's coming, they would come, people with all kind of conditions for my dad to take care. Anyway, so I always saw that, and he was very militant that we need to take care of everybody. The society only function with all the parts work. So we need to help everybody. And I think I come to CDFA with the same attitude. So I work with all these different groups, and Dr. Ricardo Gaitan has the same approach, like we need to work with everybody to make these things happen. And see if they don't have much education, so let's help educate them. Let's pass the information. And yeah, I would say that my dad played a major role on this aspect. He was very disappointed that I did not become a physician, but it was his fault because every place we went, we go to a restaurant, he would see an alley cat outside, he would grab some food and go there to give to the cat. And so he not only took care of people, he always took care of animals. And he had such a love for the animals that I guess that rubbed in. So yeah,
Physician, but for animals.
exactly. And he did take care of animals too. So yeah, I guess I can say it was my dad.
Sounds lovely. Sounds lovely.
Thank you.
Oh. How about you, Dr. Gaitan?
Well, I believe there were two main people that marked my life on regards to veterinary medicine. One was an aunt that was from the in-law family. It was not from the blood family. That she had a dairy ranch in the state of Querétaro, and I would love to go and spend the summer at the ranch, waking up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, milking the cows, uh, helping with the little calves, and selecting the cows that needed to go to with the bull to get pregnant. And she also had horses and dogs. And that was the first time I saw a dog having puppies and riding horses. So that was like the dream vacation for me. And on the other side, my great grandfather, he fought in the Mexican Revolution, and he was a very kind of military guy that lived in a ranch and had horses and cows and everything. And every time I had opportunity to spend vacation with him, I will go and spend the whole day with the animals. I remember one time that my mom told me that I came to the house because I found a nest of snakes, and I grabbed the little snakes and I took them to the house, and they kicked me out and they took the snakes away from me. And I believe that's when the love for snakes came, because up to this moment I raise snakes.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Well, I
And
can't. Was it your aunt that kicked you out of the house with your snakes, or your mom, did you say?
no, my great grandmother.
Oh, your great grandmother. Okay. Yes.
Yes. And but I believe those are the two main ones that have to do with animals, the veterinary medicine. My mom was the number one on regards public service and helping others. She was the older of 9 siblings, but when she was 17, her father passed away, and she had to move from the little town that they were living to the main city in Mexico City to work and support the family. And then when she got married, my dad was 24 years older than her. Actually, my dad was the same age as my grandfather. And when my little sister, which is 7 years older than me, she was 3 months old. I was 7 years. My father passed away, so my mom had to continue supporting the youngest sisters that were still living in the house, plus the 3 kids and her mom. So I learned a lot of the work ethics from her. Um, that you never give up, and you give everything you can. And I believe those were the three main components
Wow.
for my career.
Wow. Your mom really does sound like an amazing woman.
Yeah, my dad. I remember my dad a little bit, not much because I was too young. But one of the things that is kind of bizarre for me is that he, one part of his life, he was a Mexican consul in Sacramento,
Oh, that's a
and
funny coincidence.
from the late 40s to the early 50s. And he actually was one of the one that built the Centro del Mexicano that is in Southside Park, but that building was sold and now is like a Tenrikyu temple or something like that.
Aw.
And the funny thing is that when I was a kennel supervisor at the animal shelter, we used to meet with all the supervisors and managers once a month. And one of those meetings, they presented a CD with the recopilation of the history of Sacramento. And when I was in that meeting watching the CD, I saw my dad in
Stop.
several of,
Wow.
yeah, it was
Wow,
funny.
that's wild.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure he would be so proud of you, knowing that you're here now and the kind of work that you do. It's just wonderful the influence that people have on us when we're children, right? And inspire us too.
Yeah, yeah.
Right,
And
you
then
have-
after when my mom married this American guy in '83, he was a big figure for me. he he was a ex-military from the United States, the Air Force. He was an air pilot. He used to be the pilot of Eisenhower, and then sorry, my voice. I'm still sick.
I'm so
Um, the he was sent to the American embassy in Mexico as a military aggregate, and he was the pilot for the American embassy in Mexico. And then he also was a very philanthropist person. He was a Shriner, and he became the director of the Shriners Hospital in Mexico for several years. And he used to take us over there to fix meals and help the kids and etc. Yeah, so in all those members of my family, I learned the art of helping others.
service. Service. Thank you. Thanks for sharing.
For me, I would definitely have to say my mom. My parents divorced when I was very young. And one thing that she always told me is I had always known she was an accountant. Well, later on, I found out she actually studied to be a vet, but this was back like in the 50s because my mom is 96, or is about to be 96 in April. And this was like in the 50s, so women were not welcome at veterinary school. So they just made her life impossible. She ended up leaving that career, and she got into accounting. And she said she absolutely disliked accounting, but she was very, very good at it. And it was the best thing she could have done, was to study a career that if one day she needed the money, she could do it. Sure enough, she raised me, and she always told me, I hope, I ask God that that never happens to you, but if for any circumstance you don't have your husband with you to help you support a family or whatever, you will be able to stand on your own. You will be able to keep moving forward. And that same Latin mom spirit of, you maybe take a little break, but you just keep moving forward. And without using the infamous chancla, because she just always talked me into doing things. Keep going. It's like, you don't stop because you don't feel like it. There may be some things that you may not make you the happiest, but it's a job, a career, a profession, your family is really what matters. And you keep going, and you are good at what you do. Just excel at what you do. And I mean, I saw her, the people she worked with them for like 35 years, and I saw her helping them build fortunes with 3 different businesses. It was, I did not realize this, because for me it was very normal to go, like they had one of the larger businesses was a soda factory, and it was very normal for me to go in there, and everybody respected her, looked up to her, did whatever she said. And I thought everything was like that. Later on, I realized not necessarily, that sometimes women have to push a little harder to make sure that people realize they have commanded enough knowledge, experience to take care of things and know what they're talking about. They don't have to explain themselves or justify themselves. But I just always saw her carry herself that way. And I knew I had to study a career, and it took me much longer than I ever expected it would. But it was like, hey, I started. I cannot keep this up. And I just kept going until I did it. And meanwhile, the things I had seen her do, and whenever I went to help her at the office, it became a lot of experience. Things that to this day I know how they work. It's because I've seen them in practice. So she's always there, just keep going. So, okay, so you have a problem. That's too bad. So what are you going to do about it? And that attitude is and I think that's very typical of the Latin mom. You cannot give up. You just keep going, and they're an inspiration for everyone.
Yeah, that is definitely one thing I noticed with all 3 of your stories, is kind of the emphasis on family, strong moms for sure, service, helping others, being curious, education, a little bit of adventure. I think you guys all share, whether you think so or not. To me, your lives certainly have adventure in it. It's just been wonderful to be here in conversation with all 3 of you. I know we're wrapping up on time, but I just want to say how much I've enjoyed hearing your stories. I know we have an audience, and probably people maybe want to ask questions, and I'm so sorry that we've been just yapping away. But now we all know each other, right? Those of you in the room, those of you who are logged on, feel free to reach out, introduce yourself, ask questions. This has just been a really lovely way to make CDFA feel a little bit smaller, and kind of to share our stories that are a part of Hispanic Heritage Month. So thank you. Thank you all again.
And thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody.